Tough times in the restaurant industry. Saw one study looking at last year showing that 7,000 restaurants closed in this country. The outlook for 2026, not so much better. A net loss of about 4,000 restaurants predicted for this year. Operators say rising costs for labor, food, rent, insurance, combined with softer consumer demand and shrinking margins, are squeezing businesses that already operate on very thin profits. Let's find out what's happening in the restaurant industry with Ted Dranias. He is founder and owner of Petros Taverna. Hi, Ted. Welcome back to the program.
Good morning, Elias. How are you?
I'm doing well. So listen, first things first, because it's not lost on me that you just opened up a new outlet for Petros on Ontario Street.
Well, not me, actually.
Yep.
I'm just like a brand ambassador, but my partner opened up in Belleuil, and we opened up in the Hochelaga-Maisonneuve area.
That's right. So it's interesting because, well, for you and for your partners, you got a couple of openings here, but overall the news is bad. How do you balance those things? How should we be looking at the restaurant sector?
I spent 10 minutes this morning, recapitulating my 40-year career, and customer disposable income has gone very down. Food cost is up tremendously. Labor cost is out of whack. And the only way to survive today is if you're an owner-operator of a business, and that's what I was doing when I was involved with other restaurants. A lot of the guys, are all invested in my business. They have skin in the game, as they call it. And staffing is a problem. I mean, remember growing up in the era when I was 20, a chef wouldn't leave his job unless everything was done, and he would never check the clock. Today, everything is calculated to the last penny, and there's a lot of stuff. Our industry's gone downhill, but also I would say the government needs to relax a little bit on the GST, PST. We need a break because in the long run, 30% is tax and tip. So on a $10 bill, 30% of that is out of the window.
And of course, that starts to add up for the consumer, right? They go to a restaurant and already the prices are higher, but then it gets even higher, right, when you add all of that stuff.
Of course. Question, one thing I'd like to tell you is, I don't know if anybody's gone to the grocery store lately. We all do. I couldn't believe the pricing of chicken. Chicken in Canada is 40% more expensive than the U.S. You buy chicken thighs in the U.S. for $1.49 a pound. And here we're paying through the teeth. I guess I don't know what the reason for that is.
Ted, I've done an interview recently with Sylvain Charlebois, who you may know him as the food professor.
Yep.
And we talked about chicken. And you know what? We have supply management on chicken in this country. What happened is this. Beef got so expensive that people moved towards chicken. And because we do supply management, the industry didn't move fast enough to get ready for the explosion in demand of chicken now, right? So he's told me that will fix itself in a little bit of time, but that's why it happens. And again, your beef's already expensive. Now your chicken's through the roof. But Ted, I want to ask you because I've had people in my family. You're Greek. I'm Greek. I've had family members that have worked in the restaurant business. Like it's almost a stereotype for Greeks.
Speaking of Greek, I got to go pick up a Pandeli's pizza at 11:30.
I know exactly, right? So, but with that in mind, right? It's always been tough. Like the restaurant business has never been easy. Some would say restaurants always. I've heard that it's always 50% of restaurants that will end up closing. So why is today any different?
Another issue is a lot of the landlords are gouging the rents. On the end of the guy who owns a piece of real estate and wants to charge the guy, $45, $50 a net foot. I'll give you an example. The Royal Mount, great project. I was interviewed twice with a guy who's in charge of the leasing, and they were quoting me $110 a square foot to rent the space. Quick math, $28,000 a month rent. If I don't do $5 million of sales, I'm not going to survive. And so the equation is as follows. Yeah. Food cost should be 30-35. Labor should be 30-35. Rent should be not more than 10%. So our bottom line basically stands between 8 and 12%. So a lot of the customers that go into a restaurant, they should appreciate the fact that, people work so hard. Waiters, before, they never declared their tip. Now it's so controlled with this new electronic system. The only place in North America that actually controls your sales, Quebec. Not in Ontario, not in the U.S. The U.S. are not smart enough to put in a system called the MEV and control the sales and see who sells who. But, here, I'm not going to say what I want to say because it's going to sound a little bit
but also, Ted, that ain't changing, right? Like, I think we got to talk about the things that could change, and the Quebec government loosening its grip on that front. I don't see that changing anytime. But I guess I have to ask you, like, well, how do you buck the trend? Given everything you've mentioned, like everything that is going against you, as I mentioned off the top, well, your partners at Petros, they've opened two new ones in recent memory.
There's three guys that invested. I give them the right to the name, and they invested, and they all work in the kitchen, all three of them.
That's how you make it work. You have to do the work yourself.
That's the only formula. Otherwise, you know what? I've seen guys throw away food in the kitchen when he's cutting to make a soup, and he throws away like a quarter of the onion, a third of the pepper. There's no control. Unless you have, like I said before, skin in the game, they have no interest in making any money. But the other issue is always high cost of rent. That's a key factor in our city today,
Let me ask you, Ted, because you brought up taxes there. There was that tax. Remember the Liberals had this tax holiday on restaurant meals, right?
Yeah.
Of course, in Quebec, it wasn't as good as the rest of the country because in Quebec, it was just the 5% GST, not the PST. Right. But would you like to see something like that? Like, restaurant meals deemed like buying groceries at the grocery store? Yeah,
because, don't forget, today's grocery stores are like mini restaurants. They have you go to Costco, you buy chicken for $7.99.
Yeah,
and it's no brain. It's no. I even thought of saying to myself, you know what? I'll go buy the chicken at Costco. I'll skin it, and I'll make a club sandwich. I'll make 4 club sandwiches out of chicken that I'll buy for $7.99.
It's cheaper than if you had bought the raw chicken yourself.
Absolutely, raw chicken nowadays is about $10-12. So that's one of our lost leaders between that and the hot dog. The famous Greek CEO, once again, Greek CEO of Costco, never raised his price of a hot dog since day one.
Yeah. Ron Vacris.
That's the guy. Yeah.
Ted, well, listen, Happy New Year. You'll be my last Happy New Year. I'm not doing Happy New Year next week. Thanks for coming on, Ted.
Have a good one.
Okay. There's Ted Dranias, founder of Petros. Hey, if you're in the restaurant business and have a thought or two about how tough it is right now, you can always send me a text message at 514-790-0800. When we return, you're going to hear a couple of things. First things first. I can't believe I have to say this. Donald Trump is once again talking about Canada. You'll hear what he had to say about our country coming up next. And earlier this week, I played some audio, and it was a tax protest by one citizen that was fed up with their city increasing property taxes yet again. I played this audio earlier in the week. I got so much reaction. If you missed it the first time, you'll get to hear it again. That's coming up next.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years.
And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.